The Fox and the Stork. A lesson in respect in a quiet valley tucked between hills and tall trees, where the moon glowed big and golden in the night sky. There lived a fox named Felix. He had the brightest orange fur in the forest, eyes that sparkled with mischief, and a voice so smooth he could talk his way out of anything. Felix was known far and wide for being clever, some said too clever for his own good. He loved to joke. He loved to trick. And while many animals laughed with him, a few had learned to watch their backs around Felix. Still, he was charming. He smiled with his teeth, bowed with flair, and always had a story to tell. Most couldn't help but like him, even if they didn't trust him. One crisp evening, as the sun melted behind the hills and the stars began to flicker into view, Felix strolled by the river. The forest was peaceful. The wind carried the scent of pine, and fireflies blinked between the tall grasses. As he walked, Felix spotted someone he didn't know. A tall bird, elegant and quiet, was standing at the water's edge. She was sipping from the river, her long beak dipping in and out with grace. She had white feathers that caught the moonlight and long legs that made her look like she floated more than walked. Felix, always curious and always ready to make a new impression, trotted over. "Good evening," he said, with a friendly grin. "You must be new to these parts. I'd remember someone with such fine feathers." The bird looked at him calmly. "Good evening to you, Stella," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "And you must be the fox who thinks he's the forest's favorite." Felix laughed, clearly impressed. "You're sharp. I like that. I like that a lot." They talked for a while. Felix told a few stories, some true, some not so true. Stella listened, quiet and kind. When she spoke, it was thoughtful and measured, like every word mattered. Before long, Felix had an idea. "You know," he said, brushing a bit of dirt from his paw, "it's rare I meet someone so interesting. Would you do me the honor of joining me for dinner tomorrow evening? I make a stew that's almost as good as my company." Stella tilted her head. "I'd be honored." The next evening, the forest was lit by a full moon, casting silver light across the trees. Stella arrived at Felix's den on time. It was tidy surprisingly, so and smelled wonderful. Felix greeted her like a true host. "I hope you're hungry," he said. "I've made something special." Stella stepped inside. The table was set. Steam rose from 2 bowls of stew, but when she looked closer, her heart sank just a little. The stew wasn't in bowls. It was served on flat plates. Felix sat down quickly and started slurping up his meal. Isn't it perfect? Rich, warm, and just the right amount of herbs. Stella lowered her head, carefully trying to sip from the plate. But her beak couldn't pick up anything. She pecked and leaned, but it was no use. She couldn't eat it. Felix watched out of the corner of his eye, pretending not to notice, but the smile tugging at his mouth said otherwise. "Not to your taste?" he asked, still eating. Stella straightened up and smiled politely. "Oh no, thank you. It's lovely." She didn't complain. She didn't scold. She simply thanked him, said good night, and walked home through the quiet woods, her stomach still empty. Felix chuckled as he cleared the plates. "Too easy," he said to himself. A few days passed. Then, one morning, a small, perfectly folded leaf arrived outside Felix's den. On it was written in delicate ink, "Dinner at my place tonight. Come hungry. Stella." Felix smirked. "Round two," he said aloud. That evening, he arrived with his fur brushed and his tail fluffed. Stella's home was beautiful, a little clearing near the pond, decorated with lanterns that glowed like stars. The table was set for two. A lovely scent filled the air. Stella greeted him with her usual calm grace. "You made it," she said. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," said Felix. They sat down. In the center of the table were two tall, narrow glass jars filled with a fragrant, delicious-looking soup. "Please, help yourself," Stella said. Felix leaned in, tried to stick his nose into the jar, but it was no use. His snout couldn't fit. He licked the edge. Nothing. He tipped the jar. The soup barely moved. Meanwhile, Stella lowered her beak into the jar and sipped with ease. She didn't rush. She didn't gloat. She simply enjoyed her meal. Felix tried again. No luck. He sat back, embarrassed. "I guess," he said quietly, "I deserved that." Stella finished her soup and looked at him with kind eyes. "I didn't do it to embarrass you. I did it so you'd understand." Felix nodded. "I thought it was funny, but I see now it wasn't. You couldn't eat, just like I couldn't tonight." "What's easy for one," Stella said gently, "can be impossible for another." Felix lowered his ears. For once, he didn't have a clever comeback. "I'm sorry," he said, and he meant it. They sat in silence for a few moments, listening to the sounds of the night, the wind, the frogs in the pond, the soft hoot of an owl. Then Stella smiled. "Would you like some berries instead?" "I have plenty." Felix grinned. "Only if you let me bring dessert next time." From that night on, Felix was different. He still loved to tell stories. He still joked. But he never again played tricks that hurt others. He thought about things from their side, and he and Stella. They became great friends, walking, laughing, and sometimes cooking for the whole forest. Because that night, under the stars, Felix had learned something important. That real cleverness isn't about making others feel small. It's about knowing when to be kind. Treat others with the same respect you want for yourself.